du règlement et la motion adoptée.
Pursuant to Standing Order 1083 and the motion adopted by the committee on Tuesday, 21st of October 2025, the committee resumed consideration of the report on the Canada Revenue Agency's contact centres, the fall 2025 reports of the Auditor General of Canada.
Our two witnesses, and thank you for appearing in person. The Honourable Wayne Long, Secretary of State, Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions. I understand you'll be offering some brief remarks. And accompanying you today from the Canada Revenue Agency is Jean-François Fortin, Deputy Commissioner. Nice to see you as well, sir. Mr. Long, you have up to 5 minutes, and then we'll begin our round of questionings. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, fellow parliamentarians. It's wonderful to be here. I am blessed to be in my 11th year as a Member of Parliament for the beautiful riding of St. John Kennebecasis, which I think most of you know now butts up against your chair's beautiful riding of St. John St. Croix. We share the same city. So it is my 11th year, but in all truthfulness, committee work is so important to Parliament. I sat on committees, in particular HUMA, for a better part of 10 years. So I want you to know how much I appreciate the work you do. It's important to Canadians. So we're here to talk about our 100-day plan. We're here to talk about CRA. But I will just start by saying I was given the privilege to be Secretary of State for CRA. I was sworn in on May 13th. And I'll certainly say it's been a wonderful privilege to serve Canadians in this role. We, around this horseshoe, this table, have all heard from from Canadians that have come into our office or called our offices about CRA, about concerns they had with, getting a hold of CRA, wait times, what have you. I knew that, obviously, being a constituency MP before I was sworn in. I was certainly aware that there was some challenges with CRA with respect to the frustration level of Canadians getting calls answered. Very shortly after I was sworn in, I became more acutely aware of what I call the PR, Problem Resolution Service. I call it the PRP, which is the urgent service that when Canadians come into a constituency office, members of Parliament have the PRP line they can call to elevate and deal with urgent cases. The wait times were off the charts. They were long. So the first thing I did as Secretary of State for CRA is working with the Deputy Commissioner and obviously the Commissioner. We focused on exactly what was going on and we reallocated more resources to the PRP. So there's give or take 125 people that look after the PRP, look after that MP line, if you will. We allocated another 50 to 60 people to that. We took action quickly. And I would say, as a result, we have the PRP under good control, back within its times of a response within 5 days and a resolution, one way or the other, within 15 days. So, I think the first thing that I saw there was, hey, you know what? My background is small business. I've run small business, obviously some sports business, some other businesses. But I believe in accountability, I believe in focus, and I believe in results. And what this showed me was if we actually went in, addressed the problem, or number one, identified a problem, and we all knew what that problem was, focused on it, put the proper resources to it, we could have success. So to me, that was a good sign. But we also knew that that was a symptom. There was a larger problem of service delivery. And, again, we all heard it. It's not news to anybody around this table that constituents were coming in saying, I'm waiting forever for the CRA. So on September 2nd, Minister Champagne and myself tasked the CRA to launch a 100-day plan, to actually focus on what's going on, what can we do to address it, how can we fix things. And for the record, we also did write the Chair of Finance. I know this is PACP, but we also wrote the Chair of Finance offering to appear. We were proactive. I believe in accountability. I was sworn in on May 13th. I'm accountable. Okay? Buck stops with me. So we wanted to institute the 100-day plan. The plan has 4 pillars to increase the ability to answer calls, first and foremost. It's hard to believe, but there are 30 million calls that go into the CRA each year. 30 million calls. Okay? Number 2, expand digitalized self-service options to prevent people from calling. Maybe they can unlock their accounts online without calling. Maybe they can register for the CCB without calling. 3rd, address call drivers upstream. Basically, head off problems before people need to call or need to go online. And 4th, accelerate service modernization. So obviously, we saw the Auditor General report. It looked at a period previous, like backwards from spring. We thank her for that report. But at the time that report was released, we were already focusing on and addressing issues that were kind of in that report. So we're almost there. Every day I have on my whiteboard, I X it off. I had 7, I had 6. We're 1 week out. I'm looking forward to the 100-day plan ending, but I'm also looking forward to day 101 and forward 5 years. We are working on a 3 to 5 year plan. I am excited about that. I believe that we're on the right track. We have a wonderful relationship with the Commissioner, the Deputy Commissioner, the President of the Union, Mr. Marc Briere, and we're going to continue to strive to be better and offer the service that Canadians expect and deserve from their CRA. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much.
Good morning to you all.
Thank you very much, Secretary Long. Our first round will consist of 3 members, 6 minutes each. Mr. Detel, c'est vous qui va nous commencer aujourd'hui. Vous avez 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, and greetings to our Secretary of State, Wayne Long.
So we are in the same class, and I saw you in the last 10 years. Very important member of parliament in the government side without having a portfolio, but now you have one. My question, direct one, for the first one. Vous avez bien mentionné que quand vous avez...
You mentioned that when you were appointed Secretary of State for the CRA, you had great challenges before you, and you said it with a fair bit of emotion when you learned that you were appointed. But for 10 years, you were a MP of the department, and for 10 years we saw the CRA decrease in a dramatic way the quality of service. 2 times longer wait times than we thought. So 4 times out of 5 we get the wrong information. So how is it that over 10 years, your government, you were MP, let the situation deteriorate so horribly for Canadians?
Through you, thank you for that question to MP Deltel. I have a lot of respect for him, not to butter him up at this committee, but I have a lot of respect for him. We sat in committees together, and I appreciate the work you've done on behalf of Canadians. So to answer that question, look, I was sworn in on May 13th. I believe in accountability. You saw me put my hand up. I believe in looking forward. I believe in really, you know, you can learn from the past, but I was responsible for CRA from May 13th forward. And that's why we've tasked the CRA to come up with a 100-day plan. We've reallocated resources. We're focusing on hotspots, if you will. So, you know, the past is the past to me. I'm worried about the future. I'm very, very confident. I think the 100-day plan is showing really, really good results. I mean, we are at, when we started the 100-day plan, MP Deltel, we are at basically 34% answer within 15 minutes. We are more than doubled that now. We are showing, I think, amazing progress, which again shows to me that if we take accountability, we focus, we really lean in, put the shoulder in, as I like to say, to things that are wrong. What can we do? How can we fix them? We can have results. So again, I'm looking forward. And just to finish that off, that's why we've tasked CRA beyond the 100-day plan. 100-day plan is great, but it's a Band-Aid. I want to go past that. So I'm not looking past. I'm not really here to speak about what happened when. I'm here to speak about what happened in the from now to the future.
Le grand problème, Monsieur le Secrétaire d'État.
The major problem is that in 2017, there was a report that said exactly the same thing. So what the Auditor General is saying now is nothing new. But your government did nothing. What? How do you judge the former MP who did nothing to change the situation of the CRA?
To the direction of the CRA before I was sworn in.
Was she a good minister or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
OK. That's your style. Maintenant, revenons sur ce qui se passe aujourd'hui.
So let's come back to what's happening today. It's the first time that we have a Secretary of State responsible for CRA. But formerly there was a Minister of Finance who was responsible. Since you've been there, how often have you been at cabinet meetings and how often did you take executive decisions?
So we come in and out of cabinet meetings. I've been to many cabinet meetings. But again, my role with respect to the CRA, I think my focus is on CRA and financial institutions as Secretary of State. I have regular meetings with the Commissioner, the Deputy Commissioner. I've developed a great working relationship with the President of UTE, Marc Briere. And to me, it's about creating the right culture. I mean, I come from a bit of a hockey background, too, and, the culture starts at the top. The accountability starts at the top. So, again, we have good dialogue. We identify problems. And my focus is on fixing what I see in front of me.
So do you have executive decision maker? Are you an executive decision maker, or you have to refer to the finance minister who has the final word? Do you have true executive responsibility, yes or no?
Yes.
How many decisions have you made since you have Secretary of State?
With respect to the CRA?
Yep.
There's been some decisions I've made.
How many times have you attended the cabinet meeting? Because as a Secretary of State, you're not part of the cabinet.
That's not actually true. I do attend cabinet meetings.
Nous avons posé des questions
We asked questions to the Secretary of State who told us yesterday that the Secretary of State can take part in cabinet meetings only when there are issues related to their responsibilities that are broached.
The minister and you as Secretary of State.
Sorry, I'm not clear on the question, Mr. MP.
OK, alors je vais vous poser une question plus simple.
I'll ask you a simpler question. You said earlier that you have a background in small business, which is very interesting, and so the CRA must act very fairly towards small businesses. Why did the CRA allowed Brookfield to not pay $5 billion in taxes that they owed to the Canadian government?
I think that my focus is on CRA. My focus is on making improvements to the CRA. If you're referring to an individual tax case, I'm not going to comment
this is
on
not
an
small
individual
potato.
case.
We're talking
Merci
about
beaucoup.
Brookfield.
Désolé, Monsieur Deltel, votre temps est écoulé.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Deltel, your time has expired. But Mr. Housefather, you have 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair. And I know that my friend, Mr. Deltel, is quite aware that as an individual or a company cannot have their tax account discussed in public with a minister. There are issues of confidentiality if we don't want to court proceedings. It would be awful to ask the minister these questions.
I've been a big fan of yours the last 10 years, having worked together with you on a number of issues, and I think it's great that there is a business person who looks at the CRA as a business that has to run well for Canadians in this role. I know you have the gumption to do that, and this new government has put someone there that actually will fix problems that have lasted long before 2015 in the CRA. So let me ask you, the report, as my colleague Mr. Deltal said, is quite damning. As you would imagine, there have been problems that we have both faced as MPs for years. In fact, I'm shocked. Des fois, j'en ai des appels des.
Sometimes I get calls from citizens who are telling me that Revenue Quebec is much superior in terms of customer service than Revenue Canada is. I have told several ministers about this, and now I'm very happy that action is coming.
So your tone from the top is going to fix the problems at CRA.
Thank you, and thanks for the kind words, and it's good to see you, Anthony. I do believe the tone gets set from the top. I believe very much in culture, and I believe in, I'm not a status quo guy. I like to challenge, and I'm constantly looking for improvements, and obviously improvements in service. I always go by the adage, to stand still is to move backwards. So, you know, with respect to, and I know you referenced the Auditor General report, you know, we accept the report. We accept the Auditor General's findings. We will learn from that. But let's be clear. The Conservatives in particular were focused on the 167 calls where there were 17% accurate information given. So let's just back up on that. CRA receives 30 million calls a year. Okay, 30 million. 80% of those calls are tax file related. Okay. The other 20% of those calls are general inquiries. Okay. The Auditor General herself said in the 80% of tax file, it was 90% accurate. But they focused on the general inquiries. Okay. 167 calls. That's all that was made. 167 calls. The CRA themselves do 100,000 samples per year, where the accuracy was basically 90%. So I would argue that 167 calls isn't the best subsample. I would also tell Canadians who are watching this today, call your CRA. They're world-class public servants. They are great people in the call centers. They are giving accurate information. I don't want Canadians to think that they're not giving accurate information, because they are. We accept the Auditor General report. It was 167 calls they made. I think I'd take the 100,000 sample over 167 any day. So I want Canadians to know that they do get timely, accurate information from the CRA.
And on the issue of the, and I agree with you, right? When it came to specific questions asked related to an individual's own tax filing, the rate of success found by the Auditor General was substantially higher, much higher than the general questions that were given. But let's say, with respect to the general questions, I assume that there's also been enhanced training and a look at the documentation that CRA officials or officers are provided on the phones to be able to enhance their ability to answer general questions, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, nobody at the CRA goes into work wanting to give bad information or not wanting to answer the phone. I mean, these world-class workers there who basically were leaned on heavily through COVID. I don't know where Canadians would be without those people at the CRA who deliver those services. Sure, they want to get timely information, but we need to set them up for success too. Yeah. We need to make sure we have the right allocation of people in the right places. We need to make sure we extended contracts for 770 workers. You know, we're going to, reallocate resources to the hotspots. So, you know what? Again, the Auditor General's report is one of those ones. We accept the findings. We learn from them. But we're going to continue to strive to be better, and we are showing amazing progress so far in the 100-day plan.
Do I have any time left, Mr. Chair?
30 seconds, sir.
30 seconds. Okay, well, I'm not going to get very far in 30 seconds, so thank you very much.
You can try a short one if you want.
Who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year?
Boston. No, I better not say Boston. Toronto Maple Leafs.
Montreal is the right
All right,
answer.
order. It's obviously going to be the Habs. Monsieur Lemire, s'il vous plaît. Et voilà.
Yeah, no, huh?
Prof.
You know what?
6 minutes.
You have 6 minutes.
Quand je regardais les matchs, je me disais c'était one.
When I was look at the matches, I thought when Nolan had done a hat trick, but that was something else. Mr. Long, thank you for being here today. For me, accountability is the role of a minister. They must be accountable to Parliament and answer the questions of the committee. So I'm glad you're here. I know that you're very strong in question period. But the question of the Minister of Revenue is very important, so I count on him to send the message. So he was at the Assembly of First Nations this morning, but he should have been available to us. In the 2024 budget, your government was going to invest a huge amount of money over 2 years to maintain resources in the call centers and improve their efficiency. You need a 100-day plan. So what did that money, what was it used for? We hire people during a crisis and you put them on phone lines when they have very little training. So I understand that tax rules need a lot of time. They're very complex. You can't train people up to that level in so little time. We're talking about fixed length contracts. So you're not creating capacity. It's a problem. So these people are really then abandoned. And that explains the bad response rate data that we have. Usually it would take about 2 or 3 years. But we look at short-term strategies rather than maintaining an expertise in place over a long time. Why do we want to save in that way rather than offering a good quality service to Canadians?
Through you, Chair, thank you to the member for the question. We do strive to offer Canadians quality service. I think that by and large, CRA has done a very, very good job. Again, I can't speak to allocation of resources in the past, but being a business person, coming from the business sector, there's times when you have so many resources, you allocate resources to whether it's a PRP or it's the business tax call center or just the consumer tax call center. So I think there's always a bit of a moving target of where you put your resources, how many resources you hire. I mean, let's not forget, the CRA drives our government revenue. CRA collects revenue. We certainly are always focused on making sure we have the optimal amount of people there to, number one, offer service to Canadians, but also go out and make sure we have compliance and audit and so on and so forth. So, to me, I'm more concerned about where we are now. There was obviously a lack of response. I mean, we were down to 34%. We've extended contracts for 770 give or take workers, our contract workers. We're reallocating other resources now from other spots. And I think the results are very, very promising. So, I understand your question with respect to budget 24-25, but I'm more focused on budget 25 moving forward. I'm holding CRA to account. We have a great working relationship. We're changing the culture, and we're going to be accountable. We're going to actually set goals, and we're going to try to live by those goals. Again, it's always a bit of a moving target. I mean, we have the T1 adjustment season. We're just coming up to tax filing season now. There's always going to be hot spots, but now we're focusing, okay, we know these things are coming. This isn't a surprise to anybody. We know the tax season's coming. We know T1 adjustment season's coming. So let's make sure now that we have the proper resources allocated to, lessen those bumps in the curve, if you will. Working with the deputy commissioner and the commissioner, I'm very, very confident that we're going to overcome those and we're going to have smoother sailing moving forward. And a part of that, just if I can finish, a part of that is the 3 to 5 year plan. Again, I come from a business background. I've sat and presented to many boards on many issues. And if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. So I want to make sure we have a plan as to where we want to be in 3 years, where we want to be in 5 years. I want us to be the gold standard in the G7. I know we can get there. I'm really excited about our new system that we're changing from IBM to Bell moving forward. I think the future is very promising for the CRA.
J'apprécie votre réponse et j'apprécie que...
Appreciate your answer. And I also appreciate that when you first spoke, you said that this work in the 100 days is important, but what's important is to come later. And what I want to say is that it's important that the human resources that are working at CRA might be able to have a perspective over several years. So I have a question from the president of the local in Abitibi-Témiscamingue of PACP. So we like this decentralizations of the CRA. The number of employees in CRA call centers had decreased by more than 2,000 people. In 2022-23, it had more than 7,000 employees and was reaching the service standards. So there was an increase in the population, so there were more people. But after that, the number of employees were cut. In 2015, there were 40,059. In 2024, it's 59,055. So an increase in employees. So we're hiring and then we make cuts, and then we hire and make cuts. Will there be sustainability? Will you assure us that there won't be cuts in the number of employees, because cutting employees also means cutting services?
The member for that question. The ask of CRA through COVID, I think, was something that I think most Canadians will never forget. I mean, we did have to obviously add a lot of employees to the CRA to deliver benefits, COVID benefits, to Canadians. So clearly moving through that, the COVID era, if you will, there was a downsizing. But again, to me, it's always a bit of a moving target. What's the right number? What's the wrong number? In the end, you see where the hotspots are. There's service standards. If we fall below those service standards, we need to see why. Should there be a reallocation? And I'm very confident that it's not just about the number of employees. It's about the systems they're working with. It's about transitioning from the IBM system to the Bell system. It's going upstream and looking at hotspots. It's preventing or helping Canadians so that they don't have to call. Again, like I said, there was 312,000 Canadians that actually had to call the CRA to get their account unlocked. Just that in itself.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I gave you Mr. Housefather's time from earlier to allow you to have a fulsome response. Beginning our second round now, I am going to keep the time close because I'd like to get a third round in. Mr. Kirk, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all the witnesses that are here today. So I'm going to start by tackling something that is there's theory and then there's reality. So in theory, Secretary Long has already stated that the CRA is operating at a world-class level, smooth sailing moving forward, and he said that the former minister, he agreed that the former minister did a good job. Now we're going to get into the reality part of things, where there was a scathing Auditor General report, and in Secretary Long's own words in September, he said, "We hit rock bottom. It can't get much worse than it is now. I'd call this below rock bottom." So I'd like to just say there's theory, and then that's the actual reality. But what I find a little bit concerning is that Secretary Long was disputing some of the Auditor General reports. So simply, do you agree with the Auditor General reports, yes or no?
I accept the reports.
My question was, do you agree with the reports?
I accept the report.
Again, sir,
I can offer accounting. I can offer a counter to that.
Excuse me, sir. It's my time. I'd like to get back to. I understand you accept the report. We all have to accept the report. My question is very clear, sir. Do you agree with the Auditor General's report referring to the CRA?
Nobody wants to receive a report where you're challenged. Certainly, the workers take it personally.
But sir, again, I'd like to. In September, you said we hit rock bottom. It can't get much worse than now. I'd call this below rock bottom. But then you've given us some, world-class smooth sailing moving forward, and you agreed that the former minister did a good job. Then you disputed the report. Again, I would like to ask you, do you agree with the Auditor General's report?
I accept the report.
Sir, that's not what I'm... Sir, in all due respect, sir, in all due respect, I do respect your position as secretary, and that you've been here for 11 years, and you are a gentleman. And I do like your opening remarks that you would take accountability and you're forthwith. But please, sir, do you accept the Auditor General's report, yes or no? And I
do accept it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now, do you agree with the report?
No, you just asked me if I accepted it, and I
said yes.
I agree with you that I accept it.
We have now established you accept it, so you don't need to say
you
accepted the report.
So I agree with you that I accept it.
Do you agree with the Auditor General's report?
Look, there's different recommendations in the report. I assume you've read the report?
Yes, I have, sir, and I assume you've read it too. So again, sir, it's my time, sir. It's my time. In all due respect, do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no? And to please answer the question.
I accept the report.
Sir, that's not the question I'm asking. And to be quite honest with you now, there's giggling. We're having a good time talking about hockey. This is a really serious question. And I'll tell you why, because I haven't got to the other point, and I'd love to get more time on this. Because as you know, sir, I have people coming into my constit, and they're not happy. And there is a Globe and Mail article that just came out and said that on disability tax credits, the CRA is still behind 3 to 6 months. So enough kidding around. Do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no, sir?
I have a different view on the report, so it's really not a yes or no question, to be honest.
Well,
I have a problem with using a subsample of 167.
So then
people.
you do not agree with the report.
I just don't accept their findings on that one.
So do you agree with the Auditor General's report, yes or no?
I don't accept the report.
Do you agree with it?
Some of it, yes. Some of it, no.
Fair enough.
You've got about 30 seconds, Mr. Carrick.
So, disability tax credits should take 2 months. Is that correct? Is that what the 100-day plan is trying to achieve?
Yeah, we're at right now. We're at 10 and a half weeks.
Okay.
It should be 8.
And it's moving forward.
I'm afraid that is it for the
Thank
time.
you.
I'm going to go now to Ms. Yip for 5 minutes, please.
No, not Miss Yip. Yippity yip yip.
Well, Secretary Long, it's good to see you here, and I appreciate your comments about accountability and also your enthusiasm in your answers here today.
Thank you. I'm privileged to be here.
For the benefits of Canadians watching, you've talked a bit about the 100-day plan. Could you just elaborate on exactly what the 100-day plan is?
Sure can. The crux behind the 100-day plan is really to drive focus on the challenge that the CRA was facing. Like I said in my opening statements, we all lived constituents coming in our offices complaining about, I've been waiting on hold, I've been waiting for hours, and, well, we don't want that, they don't want that, the CRA employees don't want that. So we said, look, let's actually, Minister Champagne and myself sat down with Commissioner Hamilton deputy commissioner and said, look, let's come up with a focus. Let's lean our shoulder into where we see problems. So number one, let's increase the ability to answer calls. That's obviously the low-hanging fruit, I like to say. Let's make it better when people call, okay? So how did we do that? We allocated more people, okay? We extended contracts, 770, give or take, people. Signed them to it to drive the number up, if you will. 34% were getting answered within 15 minutes. Well, right now we're double that, okay? Number one. Two, expand digital service options. Let's encourage people to do things online that otherwise they'd sit on a phone and be frustrated for. And that's, like I said before, that's about like being able to unlock your account, going in and being able to make a payment, going in and being able to register for the CCB. Another thing that I think holds great promise, and we've seen it in our offices through IRCC, is call scheduling. I am a big fan of call scheduling. I saw in our offices years gone past some of our teammates being on hold trying to get a hold of IRCC. Well, now they go in and they actually book a time. IRCC sees it. The person on the other end knows when they're going to call back. They can be better prepared. The right person can call back with the right information. So call scheduling is a huge, I think. We are doing a trial with it right now with the disability tax credit. I think it's showing great promise. 3, let's look at call drivers upstream. Let's see what we can do to prevent people from having to do any of those things. And number 4, the modernization. Let's accelerate that. I'm really excited by that one, by the way. We are transitioning from IBM to Bell. The IBM contract was 10 years, signed in, I believe, 2015 or 2016. We're now transitioning to Bell. We talk about accelerating modernization. We were supposed to, I was always under the impression we were going to do that like early 2027, but we're ahead of schedule. As the deputy agrees, we're going to actually transition to Bell in 2026. 30 million calls, okay? 30 million calls go through that system. So imagine a more modern, with AI, flexible, whatever system that you're going to be able to, that is going to be that much better than our old system, okay? I mean, IBM's done a good job, but we're transitioning to a new system. So I'm really, really encouraged by focusing on those things. I'd always go back to my hockey life. If things weren't going well, we're going to haul the coaches in and the general manager in, and we're going to say, okay, what's wrong? Is it in the dressing room? Is it here? Is it there? What's wrong? Like, that's what we're doing now. I'm a small business guy at heart. That's where I came from. So, again, I'm treating this, it's certainly not a small business. But we're identifying the problems, we're addressing the problems, and we're going to hold people accountable for fixing it. And that's what we're doing.
I really have 5 seconds for a super quick question.
Okay. Has the responses to the business calls improved? Is that part of the 70%, or do they have their own statistics?
The business calls, that would be their own statistics. I actually toured a business call center a few weeks ago and talked to the union members there who are answering calls, and they're doing a great job. I actually might ask the deputy commissioner for clarity there. Is the
back to that, I'm sure to be given an opportunity. We're over the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you at least an opportunity to answer, but I'm sure this will be picked up again.
No problem.
We'll have that opportunity. Monsieur le ministre, s'il vous plaît, pour 2 minutes 30 secondes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, M. Long.
You have 2.5 minutes. So you're a former hockey director, and you talk about it. So I know that you're doing a counter-trap. So the citizens are trapped right now, and they reminded us several times. The problem is that the referee is only punishing one side. So the referee that does it for the government is the Auditor General. And you've said that you reject a large part of the report of the Auditor General, which is supposed to bring these things up to defend the integrity of citizens who have been harmed by your services. Bob Hamilton, the commissioner, minimized many of the facts of what's going on at the CRA. So 130,000 calls were listened to. They didn't understand what the AG was saying. But in a La Presse article, there were CRA employees undercover and being anonymous. They said how the training is so inadequate. What you reject in the Auditor General's report specifically, we need to understand that as members of this committee.
Thank you to the member for that question. I think it's quite clear. The issue I had with the Auditor General's report, we do accept the report, is using a subsample of 167 calls to, basically paint the whole CRA with providing bad information. I mean, number one, they weren't tax file related. They were general inquiries. Case in point. If somebody called and said, this tax season end on the 30th, and the 30th was a Sunday, and Monday was the 1st, and they said the 30th, the Sunday, well, then that would have been deemed inaccurate information. So again, it pained me to see Canadians getting a message that the CRA is giving bad information and, don't call the CRA and you'll never get through to the CRA. Well, that's just not the case. I mean, we're at a point right now where mid 70 plus people are being answered within 15 minutes. That's a fact. That's happening. And they are getting accurate information. So, the Auditor General has a responsibility. It's to keep us and other government agencies on their toes. Nobody likes to see a report like that, but we take it, we learn from it, and we improve.
Et voilà. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Suivant, c'est Mr. Stevens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson. You're next.
Thank you, sir. 5 minutes is not near enough. I could take you all day with all the questions that I have, being in public practice for 26 years. I have a few problems with some of the things you've said, but let's start with the very first part. My colleague here was going on about report. Let me redefine here. You said you accepted some of the findings, but do you accept the recommendations that the Auditor General has given?
I would say, by and large, yes.
Okay. You also said earlier that the buck stops with you. We've had...
From May 13th on.
From May 13th on. I know I won't hold you to account for all the problems in the past, but you did say that your previous Secretary of State was... minister was a good minister. I would differ with that, too. But let's just go back to one thing that has stated that... in the past, in previous committee meetings, they'd said there's a difference between what the department does and what agencies do and who's responsible for that. So going forward, would you say that you are going to be the one responsible for all the decisions at the top for making certain decisions that the CRA agency actually makes? There was a difference there in what we are doing.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, there's obviously the ministry side and there's the agency side, and I'd argue it's at arm's length. We have a wonderful working relationship with the commissioner, the deputy commissioner. We work together. We prioritize. They present us with options and plans. But Commissioner Hamilton is responsible and basically that's runs the CRA. I think we all know that.
Part of my something that has been so CPAs always every year have to have so many hours of development, professional development, and I've gone to many of these things, and the number one thing that is always said is that the last few years is if you actually get through and got onto there, and that, yes, you may have changed it now, but for the timing, but we're in the slow season, slow part of the year.
Yes.
So the proof will be in the pudding when we come into the spring.
It will be.
For the time.
Yes.
But one of the things I always say is absolutely, first thing you do, and if you don't hear it, rewrite down that agent's ID number so you can go back, because 9 times out of 10, we will phone back 2 hours later and we'll get a different answer. So that's always to make sure that we get the right, if we're not getting the answer that we like, often we'll phone back and get a different person, and you will get a different answer. So I think you're going to have some training on that end of it. And I'm wondering one of the things that the Auditor General said was, and we've gotten some different information from the department versus the Auditor General on this, is how they calculate how much training there actually is for these people on the call centers. Have you allocated more time and resources to training the agents that are taking the questions?
Through you, Chair, I thank the member for the question. Look, clearly how the CRA's employees are trained and allocated and shifted around, and if they go from this department to this department, obviously the training regime is key. It may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, but if I can, I will actually turn this over to the Deputy Commissioner just to comment on the training regime.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the training is a very important component of our activities. Every time we hire new people, it's a training that takes several weeks, but there's also continuous training.
Mais oui, on va continuer d'améliorer.
But yes, we'll continue to improve it and to focus on training particularly, but we'll continue to train our people properly and continue to use technology and tools.
To one more point that I have, the one thing you said you were really excited about was the future modernization. I would say that that's actually been more of a problem in regards to as a sole practitioner dealing with farmers that may be in their 80s.
Your question, Mr. Stevenson.
So basically on my main question is, what are you going to do about in this modernization for those that are not technically able to, because you've eliminated paper filing for GST and brought in huge fines for those elderly people that don't have a computer. How are you going to address those people that are getting fines with regards to that?
Through you, Chair, thank you to the member for that question. Look, the shift to modernization to the new system from IBM to Bell is a challenge. It's necessary. We all know, I show my age here, but AI is a bigger and bigger part of our lives. But look, there's always going to be a healthy, well-staffed, vibrant call center for Canadians to call and get response. I think the fact that we've increased from 34 to over 74% in these 100 days, 94 days to be clear, I think is a very, very successful number so far.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now. You'll have a chance to come back, and Mr. Long later on, you'll be able to pick it up if you like as well. Mr. Osborne, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Long, when I first got elected, we were noticing some calls from constituents with concerns. That has improved considerably, I would say, as a result of your 100-day plan. I know Ms. Yip had asked you about your 100-day plan. You talked earlier in your opening remarks as well about continuing with improvements and, where you see the agency in the future. Just wondering if you need a little more time to elaborate on the improvements to the agency and where you see it going in the future.
Through you, Chair, excuse me, thank you to the member and my Atlantic Caucus colleague for the question. CRA drives our government, our country's revenue. Look, and the CRA sometimes would have that stigma attached to it, it's the tax people, like we don't like to call them, or when they're calling us, it must sometimes be bad news, and so on and so forth. So, you have that. Then you have on top of it people calling who may not want to call, but then they're on hold for an hour and a half, or longer. And as members of Parliament, we all heard it. We all saw it. We all lived it. Long before I was given the privilege of even being sworn in, just as a good old constituency MP, doing my thing. So I knew there were problems. But shortly after that, again, with the immense privilege of being sworn in as Secretary of State, then obviously, I'm the CRA guy. So then I'm hearing from members of Parliament about PRP, or Problem Resolution Service. I call it PRP. And how long people were waiting. Like, again, it should be 5 days response. It should be 15 days resolution, okay? Well, it wasn't 5 days. It was 35 days. So it's like, oh, my. Okay, so, they say the problems will always bubble to the top. So we said, okay, we've got a problem here. So Minister Champagne and myself sat down with the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, said, okay, look, we know we have world-class public servants. We have great people there. They don't want to give bad service. They don't want to give delayed service. They want to answer the phone. But we have a problem here. So we said, look, let's really focus. Let's lean into this. So we did come up with the 100-day plan. We meet. We get updates. And I think for me, for the first time in a long time, like we've got some direction. We know where we're going. We know what we're focusing on. We know where to identify. And like I said, MP Osborne, the first thing we said is, look, like people are waiting too long. So let's reallocate people. So we extended contracts of almost 800 contract employees, kept them on the phones, reallocated some resources here and there. We saw those numbers go down, or go up, if you will. So now we're up to almost 75% of callers are being answered within 15 minutes, okay? So then we said, okay, let's look at other hot spots. And when, the deputy commissioner came back to me once and said, well, you know what, there's, I think there's 312,000 people that are calling that just want to get their account off hold. It's like, oh, well, let's try to fix that. Let's see if we can do that online. Let's look at other things that we can do to prevent people from calling. Let's educate Canadians as to what they need to call. Let's get more people on My CRA. They can do more work on My CRA. So to me, I'll never be satisfied. It's just my nature. I'm always going to be looking for improvements. I'm always going to be looking and say, well, this is great. Our 100-day plan is almost done. I deem it a success. But I'm looking at day 101 to, day 1500 here. I'm looking to say, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? What can we do to offer Canadians good service? Because Canadians deserve to have good service, timely service. They deserve to get their refunds. They deserve to have accurate information. And we're embarking upon that. And like I say, I think it shows that if you create a good culture, if you say, I'm accountable, I'm responsible for this from May 13th on, I'm going to hold you accountable, the commissioner accountable, we're going to work together, we're going to work with the union, we're not going to work against them, we're going to work with Mark Briere and UTE and find solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Long. That's a good place to stop there. I'm just trying to squeeze in more rounds. Your time is up, Mr. Osborne, obviously. Third round, I'm going to truncate the time. Ça serait 4 minutes pour le gouvernement et l'opposition.
4 minutes for the government and the opposition, and 2 minutes for Mr. Lemire. Mr. Deltel, you have 4 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. No, you have 4 minutes. So, Secretary of State, I want to come back to two worrisome statements you made. You said that the former minister did a good job. Seriously, Secretary of State. The Prime Minister expelled them from cabinet and also expelled from the House of Commons. You're the only defender. Do you realize that?
Chair, thank you to the member for that question. I think anybody that serves, anybody that's elected, anybody that comes to this place, that sits in this house or our house to represent their constituents, tries their best. I think we're all in this together. We're all representing Canadians. Some of us have been given the privilege of serving in cabinet or secretaries of state or parliamentary secretaries or committees for that matter. I try to look at everybody as and I know you do too, as a person that's trying their best. I'm not prepared to ever say somebody didn't do a good job or not. I think the responsibility of people that serve in cabinet or have ministries is immense. I think the weight on them is heavy, and I'm not here to judge somebody as to whether they did a good job, or bad job.
Okay, the Prime Minister made his choice, and that's fine, and the people of Gaspésie too. You still defend the undefendable. It's sad, Mr. Long. Let me tell you that. That has nothing personal to the people. The person was there, because the Auditor General were very strong on the result after this administration, and even you said that. May I remind to you what you said? We hit rock bottom. It cannot get much worse than it's now. I would call it below rock bottom. Vous êtes plus sévère que la vérificatrice générale.
So, why are you unable to clearly say that the Auditor General, that you agree with her conclusions? You're more strict than she is.
I don't think that at all. I think that, I think I've been known for saying what I think at times, sometimes to my credit and other times to my detriment. But look, the Auditor General report was at a period before I was sworn in. I was sworn in on May 13th. I think it's clear. Maybe I could have used a better choice of words, but in the end, things were not good, and I acknowledge them as such. When the Auditor General report says 17% of Canadians are getting accurate information, I accepted it. I may say, well, hold on here, like I said earlier.
Do you agree?
But I think, look, for me, MP Deltel, I'm focused on what I can control.
Yes,
and what I can control is my input, my direction, my plan for the CRA from May 13th on. So,
if I may suggest,
we can talk about the past, but I'm focused on the future. I'm focused on building a CRA, being a part of a team that is a gold standard in the G7.
If I may suggest, Secretary of State, keep the wording you had as a member of Parliament, as you did for the last 10 years. What you said, we hit our rock bottom. It cannot get much worse than it is. I would call it this below rock bottom. That was a member of Parliament who spoke. Keep that language, not the language of unacceptable situation.
Merci beaucoup. Suivant, because I like to always end with the government member, je vais aller à Monsieur Lemire pour 2 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. In the Auditor General's report that you don't particularly like, we understand that, but it also puts to light a systemic problem in terms of the performance evaluation of the agents who respond to the calls. So an employee can get a passing note in their evaluation if they're punching in at the proper hours, if they take their breaks at the right time, if they hang up quickly, if they answer the question quickly, if they have good behavior. So if they communicate clearly and they respect the agency's policies, even if they don't provide a right answer, as is the case in 80% of the cases, which is something you reject. So they get a pass note and they can have access to promotion. So there's a problem there. We don't verify the accuracy of the data in the performance. You value the context, the structure, and that's probably what explains the entire problem that we have with the precision of data, is that citizens need to call several times, which increases the workload for telephone lines. In the reform you want to bring to CRA, Mr. Long, will employee evaluation be a part of necessary changes to be brought?
Employee evaluation, and to your point, there's certain weights given to certain things. Could they be adjusted? Yes, but if it's okay, I will actually turn that over to the deputy.
Oui, merci. Et puis, oui, juste un mot.
Thank you. And yes, every time we get an Auditor General's report, we want to take full advantage of it and see how we can improve things. And that's one of the things we will improve. We will also focus on the accuracy, not only the information, but even if we can take that information more into account in the evaluation, so give it a greater weight. Thank you. The following and the final one, Mr. Dirksen.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair, and through you to Secretary Long. Thanks for being here and for providing substantive answers and informations to questions. You can relax a bit. I'm not going to try to pressure you into providing impossibly simplistic answers to very complicated questions. And like you, I acknowledge that there were serious problems in the past, and I acknowledge that there's a way forward, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the way forward, specifically with respect to beyond the 100 days. What the plan is to continue modernizing, and more specifically, I'm interested in the dialogue that you may be having with other ministries, such as AI or government transformation.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. We do obviously work with other ministries. Drivers Inc., I think, would be a prime example. That was certainly, I think we're all aware of. We work with transport. We work with the SDC. We continue to work with other ministries. But what I'm most excited about is what was our chatbot? Was it Charlie, the chatbot? Charlie, the chatbot. Well, Charlie, the chatbot, or a chatbot, is now been replaced by like a Gen AI, more advanced chatbot. And I think we've all seen those of us who buy things online, and sometimes the chatbot comes in, whether it's, and do you have questions you can ask, and so on and so forth. Like there's some things, like just a real quick example. Like for me, we bought some blinds at our house, okay, from this company. And this chatbot comes in, and I mean, it's incredible. You can just type it, and it gives you answers and blah. Well, the more efficient, the more information, the better, say, AI chatbots are, the less people will have to actually stay online or actually call CRA. So I really am excited about the transition from the IBM system to the Bell system. We're going to start actually testing it. I think we may be testing it a little bit. We're going to start testing it within the next few months. I think it holds great promise. We again get 30 million calls, okay? 30 million calls. And just another footnote, 75 million visits through digital per year. That's the volume that comes into CRA. So imagine a system that's modernized, that has more AI involvement, that Canadians are going to be able to call. They're going to be able to get information. They may be diverted to, another site where they can actually get the information without staying on hold, so on and so forth. So, look, I take it from my old jobs. I used to be in aquaculture and hockey and so on and so forth. And I believe that if we have a plan, a 3 to 5 year plan, we can actually really lean in. And
again, I'm driven by results. So I want to see us really become much more modernized. And it's not always about just, putting more people in call centers. We will make sure that we have the right amount of people to give the level of service that's acceptable, a good level of service to Canadians. But it's also about equipping those people, number one. But a 3 to 5 year plan, to me, can also make it much easier for Canadians, inform Canadians, drive Canadians away from phoning, more online services, more digital services. We're identifying hotspots now. We're doing the call scheduling pilot with the disability tax credit. And just one thing with the disability tax credit, and I know one of the members mentioned about the delays with that. The gateway to the Canada Disability Benefit was through the disability tax credit. So you had to register for that to get the Canada Disability Benefit. Once you registered for that, you could also go back 10 years. So there was a lot of a lot of resources tied up there for a lot of time, but we are driving that down. Like I said earlier, we're at 10.5. The standard is 8. So look, I tasked the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, with a longer outlook. I want to see where they want to go. We want to see, Minister Champagne and I want to see where they want to go. And I believe in a plan, because if you have a vision and a plan, you can work the plan. We can put metrics in place,
Secretary Long.
and we can hold people accountable.
Now, you look like you're having some fun. I'm happy to open up for more questions. Do you have a little more time?
I have to go.
No, I understand that. I appreciate your time and the extra time you gave us this morning. So I hope you'll report back to the colleagues when they come to PAC. They're treated fairly by the opposition chairman. I do want to thank our witnesses for their testimony and coming in today in relation to the study of the report on the Canadian Revenue Agency contact centres of the 2025 fall report to the Auditor General of Canada. The witnesses are excused. Again, I thank you for coming in. I will suspend this meeting so we can go into camera to pick up some committee business and report line by line. Thank you very much. This meeting is suspended.
Okay. Like I said, we're going to switch over. Let me just make sure it's still on. Yeah, we're going to do the Security Committee because they're debating Bill C-8. And then we've got a break for an hour before question period. So let's get into this. Let me make sure
the government has indicated in response that it doesn't intend to use the legislation in a certain way, but assurances are not an appropriate basis to delimit legislation. And I would cite to the 2024 special report of NZERA that actually pointed to, in one of the last examples of national security laws being overhauled, that one of the national security agencies had testified in a study committee that they interpret the legislation in a
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson, and I'm so sorry I have to interrupt you, but we are out of time, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the time to thank you for your testimony. This is going to help all the members to study this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. DeBoer, for coming here physically. We are now going to take a break so that we can prepare for the next panel.
Okay. Yeah, so I figured that's what they were doing. I was actually surprised they were still going. So they just have a few-minute break while they suspend and get the next witnesses. We can go back and watch one of the conservative rounds, actually. Let me find... Let's see Caputo's round. Was that his round right there? Yeah, I think that was his round.
Thank you very much. We are now going to move on to Mr. Caputo, who has 5 minutes.
Madame la Présidente, bienvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to the chair. I hope I said that okay.
Virtually and one in person for being here. I first off want to start off with Professor Robertson. First of all, your brief is incredibly comprehensive. So I thank you for something so voluminous and so so precise. It's not lost on me that I've often been criticized at this committee for interrupting officials like the minister, and yet you were interrupted repeatedly when the answers you were giving may not have been what some people at the committee wanted. So I'm going to let you take this time to complete any answers that were asked in respect of my colleagues. So if you have anything to add, please feel free to add it at this time.
Thank you very much. Where we stand is that, if I could quote the remarks of the Intelligence Commissioner of Canada, the glaring absentee in this legislation is the Canadian public, whose information, which is the subject of a reasonable expectation of privacy, is under threat of compromise in more ways than one in the legislation. And we very much welcome the government to take a more proactive approach in ensuring that we have network-wide security standards that protect you and me and everyone watching this hearing and their communications. When we've raised the constitutional deficiencies around the privacy risks and cybersecurity risks, we note that the government has taken the position that this is a regulatory context where privacy interests are diminished. But we know that the privacy interests of the individuals who use telecommunications are not in any way diminished. Human communication is not a regulatory matter. And that's why we point out that the balancing exercise that's critical to protect privacy and security in this case is not meeting the mark. And so you have recommendations from me, 9 in total. We believe that these are entirely consistent with the government's purpose of the legislation, which actually creates a corresponding risk that if available improvements are not taken, then the courts are that much more unable to understand why a constitutional violation is reasonably justified. So that just really kicks the can down the road to entanglements in the courts when unconstitutional legislation is not appropriately amended to address those issues.
I was going to ask you some points about the charter, but you've outlined them fairly clearly. So for now, what I'd like to do is propose, and any of the witnesses can feel free to weigh in on this. I don't believe that the bill has a sunset clause, and I think that this bill has been quite controversial. I'm hearing about it as critic, and we are hearing about it at committee. The general consensus has been, and not everybody has said this, that there is a necessity for legislation on this topic, but as you know, and I'm paraphrasing you, Professor, we shouldn't be passing this legislation carte blanche without scrutiny. As I would say in my legal career, it's not just important that we get it done, it's that we get it right. Especially on something like this. One mechanism is a sunset clause, and I'd love for each of you or whoever wishes to weigh in. I suppose a sunset clause can take multiple forms. One of them is review at committee after 5 years, which in my experience doesn't generally happen. It just gets kicked down the road. Another would be a legislative review. I'm not sure if that would occur, how that would occur, but I suppose we could fashion that. And another is the bill just sunsets after 3 years. And in other words, you need legislation. So new legislation to revive it. Do any of you have opinions on that? Hatfield, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it could be helpful, but wouldn't be the primary fix we'd recommend. I mean, I think you've named it. Renewal of bills is often happens formulaically.
Is there a problem, Mr.? You can restart, please. Everything okay? Is there interpretation? The interpretation is here. The sound is good. Okay.
We don't need it.
Yes. We're just going to look at, I think it's the sound in the room that is actually not working.
Can you just speak for a few seconds? I just want to see if there's an issue with the room sound.
Yes, I'll vamp a little bit to give you space to test that.
Man, we need some new tech guys.
So the earpiece is working. It's just in the room. We can't hear him.
Mr. Hatfield, could you please repeat what your answer was, and then after that, Professor Robertson, Mr. DeBoer, if you have any thoughts, please.
I think a sunset clause is a good idea, but it isn't the primary recommendation we would have. As you pointed out, renewal of those kind of things is often formulaic. And I think the problem with a sunset clause currently is that MPs aren't being provided with the information that you will need to judge the operation of the bill, 3 or 5 years from now. The government is holding too much secret information or just having the minister say what they believe to be reasonable. You need far more information to be able to make a meaningful decision there.
Thank you. Professor, any thoughts?
Yes, thank you. And I'm a lawyer and researcher at the University of Toronto, but don't hold the title of professor, so I'll just clarify that. In my view, we've had the unique opportunity to hear from a former federal court judge who's been very explicit, if I could put it that way, in saying that there is a constitutional vulnerability here for which he sees no justification. Of course, I agree with that assessment from my own perspective, but when you have the clarity of the issues put in such a crystallized format.
I am sorry to interrupt you, but this is the end of the first round of questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Polowski, and I was about to forget you. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's switch to see if they're still
national
suspended.
Security and safety.
No, they're not.
Bill C-8 is crucial for protecting national security by requiring private and public organizations within critical infrastructure to adopt robust cybersecurity practices. As cyber threats evolve and become more sophisticated, securing critical infrastructure and services is paramount to national security and public safety. Number 2, enhanced risk management. By enforcing mandatory risk management practices, the bill helps organizations move away from a reactive posture to a proactive approach that minimizes risks before they escalate into actual incidents. Number 3, government authority in high-risk scenarios. Bill C-8 gives government the authority to act swiftly during severe threats to critical infrastructure, protecting essential services and public trust. To further strengthen the effectiveness of the approach, it would be beneficial for Bill C-8 to provide greater clarity and distinction between the role of the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity as the technical authority and the responsibilities of sector regulators. Clear separation of these roles will help ensure coordinated, efficient, and expert-led responses to cyber threats across Canada's critical infrastructure sectors. Number 4, alignment with our global allies. Our allies are implementing or have already implemented similar cybersecurity laws. Bill C-8 allows Canada to align with international partners and makes it easier for Canadian companies to operate globally within secure frameworks. Lastly, economic security. Cyber attacks on critical sectors have far-reaching economic implications. By ensuring key industries and services are protected, Canada also safeguards the economic stability, helping prevent cascading consequences that could arise from disrupted services and infrastructure. In conclusion, Bill C-8 is a well-intentioned and urgently needed step to address the pressing issue of cybersecurity in Canada and in Canada's critical infrastructure sectors. The threat environment has dramatically evolved, and the threats are no longer theoretical. Action is required now to protect Canadians and our allies. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee, and I look forward to your questions.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Warnell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warnell. And now this is the turn of Mr. Bradley, who has 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Yes, my name is Frances Bradley, and I am the president
and CEO of Electricity
Canada,
which is the national voice of electricity
Canada
in
is the
Canada.
national
Point of order.
voice. Oh, are we having problem? There is a problem with interpretation?
Who the hell is running this
Is
show
everything
today?
all right?
No interpretation?
Is everything fine?
There are like 3 other English voices on the same channel.
OK. Voulez-vous qu'on
Oui, on va juste... vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me in English, in the English channel? Can you hear me in English? Can you hear the English channel? Is everything fine?
Alors, on va vous permettre, Monsieur Bradley, de recommencer.
Do apologize, Mr. Bradley. You can start again if you don't mind. So Electricity Canada is the national voice of electricity in Canada. Our members generate, transmit, and distribute electricity in every single province and territory. Thank you so much for having invited me to testify on Bill C-8. Last December, I had testified in the other chamber on C-26. So the new cybersecurity requirements in this bill would apply to certain critical infrastructures that are presently under federal jurisdiction. In our electrical sector, this mainly refers to international and interprovincial power transmission lines, as well as nuclear power plants. Like many other witnesses have said, we also recognize that there is a legislative gap in Canada's approach to cybersecurity, and therefore we support the overall objectives of the bill. However, we have certain concerns and propose a few amendments to better protect existing partnerships with federal agencies and strengthen the security of our sector.
To introduce clear protections and safe harbor provisions for organizations that voluntarily disclose cyber incidents or vulnerabilities to the government. These protections should ensure that information shared in good faith by organizations is not used to initiate lawsuits or regulatory penalties. In our view, the absence of such protections is a major gap. Without them, operators will likely receive legal advice to share only the minimum information required to comply with the Act and nothing more. As I discussed for C-26, the same issue, this would result in a chilling effect on information sharing. This would be a missed opportunity to foster open collaboration and information sharing with government, both of which are essential to strengthening our collective resiliency. A second concern relates to the potential risks Bill C-8 poses to the partnerships that critical infrastructure operators currently maintain with CSE's Cyber Centre. Today, our sector benefits from a collaborative relationship with the Cyber Centre, grounded in the confidence that information shared with it is not disclosed to regulators, enforcement bodies, or other departments. Bill C-8 could change this. It would require that CSE share incident reports with regulators, provide advice or services to regulators on operators' compliance with supply chain risk mitigation, and authorize CSE staff to share information with other government entities for the purposes of issuing cybersecurity directions. These new roles and responsibilities risk creating, as I said, a chilling effect, as operators may now hesitate to share information with the Cyber Centre if they fear it could later be used for regulatory enforcement. To protect these vital partnerships, we recommend that Bill C-8 better define expected information sharing between CSE and the rest of government, and protect information shared voluntarily with the Cyber Centre from being disclosed. A clear separation between the Cyber Centre's collaborative functions and CSE's new obligations could be adopted. We can draw inspiration from a similar model that already exists in our sector between the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, NERC, and the Electricity Information Sharing and Analysis Centre, the EISAC. Although the EISAC is operated by NERC, it is kept organizationally isolated from enforcement activities, which preserves confidentiality and encourages open information exchange with electricity operators. And finally, we're concerned that Bill C-8 could create a duplicative regulatory framework for cybersecurity in the electricity sector, which is already regulated through NERC standards and provincial regulators. The electricity sector is unique in that it adheres to NERC's critical infrastructure protection standards, which are adopted, enforced, and audited by provincial bodies. These standards already ensure strong and comprehensive measures to secure the grid. Introducing new, potentially conflicting federal requirements risks creating ambiguity, additional compliance burdens, and regulatory misalignment, all of which could undermine the bill's objective of enhancing security. So to mitigate this risk, we propose including provisions that allow the federal regulator to recognize and accept compliance with equivalent frameworks such as NERC CIP. We'll also be ready to work with the government during the regulatory development process to ensure alignment and harmonization with existing frameworks. Bien que nombreux autres aspects du projet de loi mériteraient également une attention.
Even though many aspects of the bill also deserve attention, this is all the time I have today. Your time has finished. We are going to start our round of questions with Mr. Lloyd. Go ahead. You have 6 minutes.
Mr. Bradley, are these safe harbor provisions that you're proposing, is there a precedent for these in other jurisdictions? And if so, which jurisdictions?
That is an excellent question. I don't have a great deal of detail specifically with the
Can
safe
you send this
harbor.
to that at a later time then? If you can get
We
a
can,
briefing
but
on
I
that?
would also reference the witness that you had previously from the CCTX that spoke in detail about safe harbor provisions and has provided detail on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering, we want to give protections to the operators so that they share information, but what if the case is that the operator was found to be grossly negligent in causing a cybersecurity incident? Would these safe harbor provisions protect them when they share that information with the government from criminal prosecution?
Well, if you're talking about a case of clear I'm sorry, the term that you used.
Gross negligence.
Negligence, that I don't believe would apply when you're talking about safe harbor provisions.
Okay, thank you. That's just something, we don't want companies to use the safe harbor provisions to basically just say, see, you can't investigate us or charge us because we shared the information with you.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if you agree with other industry stakeholders. We've received a brief from the Electronic Payments Association that the reporting requirements for all cybersecurity changes are too broad and could lead to a heavy reporting burden for operators without improving security outcomes. Did you have thoughts on that?
Well, we don't know exactly what the reporting burden is going to be because we haven't seen the regulations. Our concern is, in fact, about doubling and layering on. We've already got an existing mandatory regime, and that's something that is unique for the electricity sector. Because of the NERC standards, we have mandatory reporting already in this sector. So our concern is not so much what that reporting regime is going to be. We've already got one.
Is there a legislative change that you think could help reduce this duplicative burden?
Yes.
Okay. Please.
Simply point to existing. Right now, as the legislation is written, is order in council. They may identify equivalent standards. They should be identifying, as opposed to making it optional. It should be mandatory that existing mandatory standards should be regarded as equivalent.
Thank you. Could you tell us about any concerns pertaining to the administrative monetary penalties proposed in this legislation? Do you believe that monetary penalties are a constructive tool for driving compliance?
Monetary penalties already exist for our sector. With respect to CIP, there are monetary penalties in NERC CIP standards. We haven't seen major monetary penalties yet on Canadian entities, but on a North American basis, we have seen six-figure monetary penalties for CIP standards.
In driving compliance then, or were they hindrance?
I don't think they impact compliance.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any concerns that the mandatory information sharing provisions in the CCSPA could inadvertently lead to disclosure of sensitive commercial, operational, or even personal employee data? And if so, do you think the bill should be amended to better safeguard that information?
We already currently exchange very sensitive information on an ongoing basis. The protections, I believe, that are in place now are likely sufficient. So our concern is not so much the protection of the information, but the potential that information could be used for more than simply improving security. If it's used for penalty, if it's used by the regulator as opposed to by the security people, that is where our area of concern comes in.
Thank you. And the bill also proposes to introduce significant penalties and potential liability for officers and directors of designated entities. We've heard from other stakeholders that these aren't really precedented in other jurisdictions. Do you have any thoughts on those provisions?
I do not about other jurisdictions.
Okay. But what about within Canada?
Officers of corporations are ultimately who are responsible for the actions of those entities to begin with. On the one hand, on the other hand, there is also directors and officers liability insurance that our organization and many others make sure that we have.
Do you share the concerns that other industry stakeholders have that the criteria with which we define a designated operator is unclear?
I have not seen enough detail, and those are the sorts of things that I think will be clarified, we hope, when we get to the regulation stage. And so I don't think I could pass an opinion on that because the regs are not even in existence yet.
Yeah, the legislation. Some people have said that they think it's very unclear about who will be a designated operator, and that this could capture a great number of small and medium-sized enterprises. But thank you for your time.
Il vous reste quand même 50 secondes, Monsieur Lloyd.
You still have 50 seconds.
Okay. Mr. Warnell, did you have any comments on any of those questions that I asked?
Thank you, Minister. I think the comment I would say around the monetary penalties in this legislation is really equivalent to the same liability that officers hold for the safety of their workers. Cybersecurity is not a standalone domain. It is about safe operations of your operator, whatever you happen to be. And so I think that approach is already in legislation elsewhere, and its equivalency is actually very beneficial to ensure the importance of cybersecurity as a core operating practice.
This legislation will help protect our electrical system from the threat of solar flares and coronas events?
No, this is definitely not doing anything around enhancing, natural protections. There's other works in other areas that could further that.
Peut-être dans un autre thème.
Now, perhaps later on you'll be able to complete your answer. So now I give the floor to Mr. Ramsey for the next 6 minutes.
Pour votre témoignage. Écoutez, dans le panel.
Very much for your testimony. In the previous panel, we were told about how this could affect privacy. And this is yet to be determined because there was another panel that had told us that the protection was sufficient. Nevertheless, just as we have to do for every single bill, we need to look at the pros and cons of each one. So I would like for each one of your industries, if you could explain and tell us what the potential dangers and consequences are of cyber threats for your respective industries. How serious could these attacks be? And what does it mean for each one of your sectors for us regular folk? Thank you.
Can begin in terms of what is the potential impact for cyber attacks. I believe that the sector has been very effective in terms of its cyber protection. But if you want to understand what the potential impacts could be, you'd have to go back to 2015 when we saw for the first time electricity service that was impacted to end customers with a cyber attack by Russia into Ukraine that actually turned off the lights for customers. And so that is not something that we've seen here in Canada. But if you want to understand what the worst case scenario potential risk is its loss of service. And of course, loss of electricity service. Electricity is the key, in our view, the key infrastructure that every other critical infrastructure in the country depends upon, which is, one of the reasons why we've been had worked to develop and have been subject to mandatory cybersecurity standards for close to 20 years now through the work that we've done with NERC. So we do have protections in place because the potential impacts would be so severe if a successful cyber attack took power out to customers.
To echo Mr. Bradley's comment, the broadness of the potential, both disruptive and destructive action that could be before us is actually incredibly terrifying. The ability for threat actors, both nation state and cyber criminal actors, to infiltrate networks and cause downtime unexpectedly that cascades into the lives of day-to-day Canadians, whether it's for delivery of health services or water or financial services. And because electricity is disrupted, it is real. These are no longer hypothetical scenarios. When in previous conversations through the evolution of this bill, I think there was lots of understanding that this was fear-mongering. If you go back to the actual releases from our intelligence partners here in Canada and our allied nations, those realities have been declassified. The reality is
threat actors are pre-positioned in the event of larger scale kinetic conflicts or other geopolitical challenges that may decide that that type of action is warranted. So we've moved beyond where the people with the tinfoil hats worried about what could happen to it's real, responding to the threat is necessary, and this is a good first step forward on that.
So on the issue of the double regulations that you alluded to, Mr. Bradley, I think it was properly explained in another session. And this had to do essentially with the rules that we were forecasting, and there would be an agreement in order not to reproduce or duplicate services. So I'll bring you now to the incidents that should be reportable incidents. I know that could be a great number. Could we clarify perhaps what is a reportable incident, what shouldn't be a reportable incident? And tell me, because in the bill, we don't talk about near misses. So even if it didn't happen, it could have happened and it could have warranted a report. So should that be, in your opinion, inside the bill?
Start off by saying, I with respect to the potential duplication, and this will be addressed in the regulatory process. That is what we were told during Bill C-26 as well, and it's not that I doubt the officials involved, and but until we actually see the regulation, and frankly, our experience with the development of regulations following legislation has not always been positive, and has not always resulted in the kind of legislation in regulation that we had been expecting. So we continue to have concerns on that side. With respect to exactly what will be reported, I might defer on part of that to my colleague, Mr. Warnell, as he is a CISO, so he's kind of working in the coalface of cybersecurity. Because the concept of having to report near misses, I'm not sure how one would do that. That one is pretty clear in the area of health and safety, for example. But I'm not sure what a near miss means when we're talking about cybersecurity. I don't know how you would interpret that and how you would capture that.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Your time is up. I'm sorry you can't continue. Perhaps on the next turn you will complete your answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramsey. And now it's my turn for 6 minutes. Now, Mr. Bradley, this whole issue of overlapping concerns us with regulations and with the NERC standards. Could you give us an idea of what the role NERC is in electrical, so the electrical sector in Canada, and what could this overlap actually mean? We really need to understand this.
That NERC relationship, because it is critically important. Nous estimons
we estimate that the government hasn't perhaps understood clearly the true regulations in our sector. NERC creates very reliable standards, and provinces adopt these standards and apply them.
At NERC, it is an organization that is North American in scope. And so this is not a case of, some organization that is headquartered in the United States telling us what to do. There are 2 Canadians on the Board of Trustees of NERC. There are 5 Canadians on the Members Representatives Committee of NERC. We are involved in the development of those standards. So this is clearly something that has been in existence for a couple of decades, understands, recognizes the kinds of realities that we have, and it has regulatory backstop by Canadian regulators. So the NERC standards do have backstop by every regulator in all of the provinces that are part of the bulk power system. So the whole question of what happens when you've got duplication, qu'est-ce qui se passe dans
So what happens when you have duplication under the circumstances? So if there were to be an overlap, that would mean bigger costs and confusion, less resources that are dedicated to security and more resources that would be to responding all of the different rules instead. Thank you. So my second question is that, and as my colleague, Mr. Ramsey said, we have heard people from the government say that their goal was not to create regulatory overlap, but to work with your sector to make sure that this didn't happen. Does this reassure you? And myself, I'm a little worried still. And is it enough? Or should we think about amendments to the bill in order to mitigate this risk? Thank you for the question. This was the same question I was asked a year ago when we were looking at C26. We don't doubt the good intentions of our federal government colleagues. However, there is no legal obligation to avoid overlapping in the present bill. We would like guarantees within it rather than waiting for further regulation. So solutions reinforce accountability clause and with existing regimes. So rather than being suggestions, it should be an obligation. And I think that's clear. And we also have to recognize equivalency, such as NERC, CIP, conformity.
Told, don't worry, we'll take care of that in the regulation has not always been a positive one. And so when there are clear fixes that should be in the law, in the legislation itself, let's put it in the legislation itself. If we clearly want to say, let's recognize equivalency, as opposed to saying that will be an optional thing that can be looked at in the future. If we know that that's the right way to go, it should be a legislative option as opposed to a regulatory option. In my view, I think it is something that our legislators should be directing as opposed to leaving that in the hands of officials that are going to be writing the regs and implementing them.
Merci. Thank you. One last question. I have a minute and 30 seconds. Could you tell us any kind of amendments that would translate your intention to better frame this whole issue? Would you be able to give us this information so that we would get a better and deeper understanding of the intention that you would like to find within the bill? Absolutely. We are working very hard on this.
In terms of the specific clauses that we think should be amended that would be able to address this.
Alors, il me reste encore un peu. So, I still have a little bit of time. Madam Chair, yes, thank you very much. So you were saying within C8, there are a few risks that are linked to the Center for Cybersecurity. In the 30 seconds we have, could you explain what's at stake here? Well, it's something unplanned. We use electricity and other critical infrastructures use it as well. So this is a very collaborative relationship that we have with the CCCS. And so what we want is we want to preserve that relationship that we have with them.
Strong information sharing relationship now, and this will clearly have a chilling effect if there's even the possibility that information being shared could wind up in the hands of regulators.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur. Thank you so much, Mr. Bradley. And now I'm giving the floor to Madame Kirtland for 5 minutes.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Moi, j'ai Kirtland. Alors, Monsieur Howe.
I had Kirtland. So, Mr. Howe, yes.
Mr. Wanelt, now you mentioned private-public partnership. I think this is a very good idea. And in this cybersecurity issue, the technical parts, right? Some components, regarding technology. And I always believe that government does not have the most timely information or technology using their knowledge. And in this bill, it gives the power to the minister to tell the industry what to do and what not to do.
Yep.
And I don't think that's the best approach, right? Because as I said, you guys know better because you are on the ground. So what are your comments and response to, that you have to receive directions from the minister for what to do and what not to do? What is your response to that?
Yeah, thank you for your question. The structure of the legislation, from our perspective, is actually adequate because it actually is setting up for speed of response. The minister themselves is not going to unilaterally act and provide, some, arbitrary direction to an industry or an industry participant. They're going to be working hand in hand with, private public entities. They're going to be working and taking technical advice from the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity. So we don't see the arbitrary nature of an individual minister, having a risk. The opportunity when a disruptive or destructive action is about to happen to respond with speed is of the utmost importance. So the legislation as laid out allows for that speed of response. It doesn't say ignore technical experts. It doesn't say move unilaterally. It is set up for speed of response, which, as we know in the cybersecurity landscape, is of the utmost importance to, prevent and or respond to an event that's unfolding.
Very good. And in your presentation, you also mentioned that this bill C8 is well intended and needed. So why do you believe that, or do you believe that this bill itself would address most of the problems?
Yeah, I'll build off your question from the previous session. Candidly, this never ends. The cyber threat landscape evolving, there is no end. So to your previous comment to the last panel, this is a first step. There will be next steps. There will be forever steps because the technology, the capabilities, the cyber threat landscape will continue to evolve. We're talking and dealing with technologies that are currently mass deployed now. We know that AI continues to accelerate now. That is really at a level of focus well before this legislation even came into being in its predecessor form in Bill C-26. The reason why this bill as structured is important is because it doesn't lay out specifically the technologies or the approach or the capabilities that are needed to respond to. It is purposely wide and broad because we know that it will only continue to evolve very rapidly. And so that ability of the legislation, which causes consternation and challenge, I know a lot of industry partners and sectors would like very clear lines of delineation and specificity, but that would undermine the ability to adjust to changing threat landscapes, changing capabilities, as well as changing just tactics being used around the world.
But again, I always feel that we should not play the game of trying to catch up. So if there's one thing you can recommend that we can be more proactive, that we can be ahead of the criminals, what will you recommend?
Again, continuing to embolden that public-private partnership, which do exist today, further indoctrinate those as mandatory elements of coordination and collaboration between government and technical authorities, as well as the competent, private sector authorities. That would be my single best recommendation.
Very good. My next question is to Mr. Bradley. Now, I understand that, in regulations and also all kinds of reporting procedures, you have the professional body, you have the professional industry standard that you already set up. Now, this is another layer that the government is trying to put forward. So do you agree that if the industrial standard is already higher than the required government standard, would it be not better to have the government adopt a professional standard or allow the professional standard just to prevail instead of setting another layer? Will you agree to that?
I would agree entirely. That's precisely what we would like to see in this case. That we're currently operating under.
Bradley, c'est pas un rôle facile d'être.
Bradley, I know it's not very easy for me to interrupt you or in your responses. Now I will give the floor to Madame Akan. You have 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Privilege to visit Bruce Power this summer. So I want to start thanking you for the very hard work on the electrical sector, as well as being the global.
Okay, we're going to call it here. Like I said, they've only got one round left anyway. So really what I got from that is that the private sector already has exactly everything in it that C8 already has. There's already private proponents that manage the cyberspace. C8 just really gives the minister more power in order to be able to shut off internet should they deem it a national security issue. So it's really just a bill that allows for overreach. I don't see the necessity of it, in my opinion. But anyway, I put the link in chat a few times. There's the link for question period. We've got a little over an hour until we watch question period. And then straight after question period, we've got 2 committees that we're covering. So we've got Melanie Jo Lee in one, and then we've got Gregor Robertson in another. And Chris, if you can watch, I know you said you've got to go at around 5. But if you watch OGO while we're watching those, and if you can give me some timestamps, we might just flip over to OGO at the end and double check to see what we missed. But yeah, I'll leave that up to you. Otherwise, I'm just gonna watch OGO after that and try and find the best rounds and clip them, because there's 3 good committees on at the same time. We can't watch them all at the same time. I've tried to pick the best 2, but I would also like to see what's going on in OGO. So if you watch it and you let me know some timestamps, I'll happily try and get us in there. Okay, perfect. All right. Sweet. So I'll see you guys shortly. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and watching. Busy morning already. We've already covered 2 committees. We've already been live for like 3.5 hours. Then we've got QP. Then we've got question period. We'll be live like 8 hours or 9 hours today. It's crazy. So, but all right, guys. See you soon. Cheers.